Namaste. Welcome again. You're all here today because you're looking for some answers. You have certain desires and you're looking for a key that can manifest those desires. Things that you want in life. Every single person on this planet is always looking for something. They all have desires, and so do you. What you're hoping for is that if you find that key that can help you manifest those desires, then that would turn your life around. You would get whatever you want, whatever you need, and you would have only those pleasing experiences. And that's what this session is all about. And today's session is going to be very special because we first covered the step 1, being at peace with circumstances. Then we covered the step 2, how to be at peace with yourself. And step 3, we talked about being at peace with everyone else. Those are the basic elements for you to get whatever you want in life, because those are the main things that hold you back. But beyond that, you still have your desires. So step 4, which we will cover today, is how to be aligned to your own desires and be at peace with those desires. And then step 5, which we will cover next week, would be how to manifest them deliberately. What you can do to actually make those things happen through your thoughts alone. Now, if you just sit back, relax, close your eyes, and just look deep inside what desires you hold. And how would it feel when those desires are manifested? Just imagine yourself being a big sheet of cloth lying on the ground. Choose a color which pleases you. And on this cloth, at various places, imagine some balloons being tied up. Those balloons are your desires. And you are that piece of cloth which wants to lift up, touch the sky, go really high. So the more light air you fill into that balloon, those balloons, higher you would rise, those sections of that cloth would rise. So imagine some of those balloons rising up, trying to pull the cloth with it. But there are also these weights that are lying on this piece of cloth, which are holding it back, holding you back from touching the sky. Now, our objective is to somehow release those weights one by one and give more power to those balloons. Have more balloons so that you could just lift up in the sky and enjoy that freedom. these desires are what make you lift high, make you feel joy whenever those desires are manifested. So if you open your eyes now, so as you must be aware that you have certain desires, so do others. Some of those things are pleasing to you, some of those things are not. But it is not our place to judge what others believe, because this world is full of different types of people. Every person has different circumstances. Every soul has come into this body with different intentions to experience different things. It is not our place to judge what others want or do not want. All we can do is create our own universe around us, which is pleasing to us. And that's what we are going to start doing today. Because after some time, one day you would realize that whatever we talked about today was the turning point in your life. We are going to talk about some things today, and then you would think about those things when you go home, and you would realize that those thoughts that we are going to talk about today are going to turn your life around. Because we have already talked about releasing some of these other weights, being at peace with your own self, circumstances and people. And today, the biggest hurdle that we face, are we at peace with our own desires? How do we align ourselves to those desires? So that's what we would talk about today. So, as you can imagine, unless we are at peace with our own desires, it's not really possible for us to be able to manifest those desires. In fact, if there is a struggle going on inside us, then we might actually end up manifesting the opposite end of those desires, things we do not want. So if we want money, but if there is a turmoil going on inside us, there are certain beliefs we have which prevent us from allowing money into our life, then we would actually end up opposite of that, where we would not have any money. So this is one of the most important steps. Before we even align ourselves to our own desires, we have to understand that all desires are good. Different people have different circumstances, different souls have different circumstances. They take this body for those experiences. And all the desires combined together, all the consciousness combined together is what we call God. So which means whatever desires we hold, whatever desires others hold, all the desires of all the people combined together and all the souls in the universe. We are not the only ones. There are other souls in the universe. All of their desires combined together form the desires of God. So if all those people have those desires which are desires of God, then who are we to judge what plan God has? Or what is the place and what is the the righteousness or the reason for those desires? Because if you think about it, every bad thing that happens, there is always something good hidden underneath. And every good thing that happens, sometimes there could be bad things hidden underneath. Every cloud has a silver line. Let me take an example. World War II. It is considered one of the most evil acts conducted by somebody, like a lot of people think he was, reincarnation of devil himself. So hundreds of millions of people across Europe and across the world got affected. A lot of lives were lost. So a lot of things that we believe were really, really bad and wrong happened. Which is right, because that's exactly what happened. But nobody realizes that billions and billions of people benefited from it so much. Nobody talks about it. They only focus on the negative sides of that war. So many countries which were colonies of countries in Europe, Spain, Belgium, France, and the biggest one of them all, UK, England. All those colonies were freed because of World War II. So all those people, they can live their life in freedom and in happiness, in whatever way they want to create their life, because of World War II. So even though it affected hundreds of millions of people negatively, there were billions of people who benefited from one of the most evil acts that we think about in recent history. So who are we to judge what purpose that desire holds? And what is the reason for that desire? And we know that all the desires of all of us combined together forms the desires of God. All of our consciousness, all of our energy, every bit of energy that exists is God. So whatever desires we hold, whatever desires others hold, they're all God's desires. So our job is not to judge others' desires or what others think. Our job is to just focus on what we want and create our own universe. And we can do that because the same energy, same power through which God created this universe that belongs to Him flows through us. So through our thoughts, we can create our own universe around us. And every person has their own universe around them, which they shape through their thoughts. That's why they notice certain things, but they don't notice others. And in fact, just recently I found out that this knowledge of thoughts affecting the physical world has been in existence long, long before the Western world came up with law of attraction. My wife was reading Ayurveda, and those things have been around for thousands and thousands of years, long before like any civilizations existed in the rest of the world. And in Ayurveda, they talk about how every single thing that happens in your life, including accidents, diseases, is resultant of some of your thoughts that you hold. So that knowledge has been around for thousands of years. And it's evident in everyday life. If you when you meditate and you think about it, you reflect upon whatever things have happened in past, you would realize that that's actually true. So most of the events that you have, that major events that have happened in your life, you would realize that those events were result of your mental state at that time, the thoughts. If you had a different mental state, different thoughts, the outcome would have been different. Quite often your actions, you do the best job, but you don't get the results you want. On the other hand, quite often, because your mental state is quite good, you don't do much and suddenly things just fall in your lap. So these thoughts eventually are also, these desires are also part of these thoughts. So the desires you hold and the thoughts you hold around those desires is what makes those desires come true or not. So first step is for us to understand that let others be. If they hold certain desires, we don't know what circumstances they are going through. We don't know what pain or what issues they may have. We don't know what their souls have gone through in their previous lifetimes because of which they have chosen those experiences. All that matters to us is what is it that we want? What kind of universe we want to create around us? If there are certain things which are in common between our desires and other people's desires, those people would automatically drift towards us and we would be able to manifest those desires together. If there are certain desires which are not in harmony, then those people would slowly start drifting away from you, and you would be able to have better people who are more in harmony with you start coming towards you. And in order to manifest those desires, becoming aligned with those desires, first step is for you to accept. Just let others be, just let them be with their own desires, and then you have to think of your desires and see what are those desires that are pleasing to you. So when you think of a desire, when you can visualize it and feel good within yourself, then you have aligned yourself to that desire. When you see others manifesting the things that you want and you feel joy at their achievement, that's when you have aligned yourself to those desires. But if you're jealous about others, let's say you want to win lottery, if you see others winning and if you have those negative emotions that, oh, why did they win, why didn't I win, then that means you're not fully aligned. But if you feel joy inside you, seeing others win, then you are in alignment. So, there is a step-by-step process that we could follow to align ourselves to our desires. First step is we have to identify the desires that we hold. So, easiest thing would be to just write it down. I want this, I want this, I want this. But quite often, those desires would be colored. They would not be pure. Because quite often, the desires are based on what we have learned from other people. Not because we really want those things. Not because those are our true intentions deep inside. So, once you write those desires down, you then look at each desire and ask yourself, I want this because if I get this, I would get this. Then that thing, I want that because if I get this, then I would get this. And I want that thing because if I get this, I would get that. So you would have a list of things which are the reasons you hold that desire. Those reasons are important because even those reasons truly are your desires. So you're expanding your desires. But let's say you want to win lottery, Catherine.
I do.
So why do you want to win lottery? Is maybe because you want a big mansion.
No, I've thought about why I want to win the lottery, and it's interesting that you say, if you see other people win the lottery, do you think, oh, why isn't it me? I don't. I'm actually quite happy for them. I think, good on you, good on you. And I'm trying to put in place, like obviously if I want to win the lottery, I've got to do the lottery. And for me, it's not about, money is a means to an end for me. Mine is about choice. I want choice in my life. I want choice about the things I want, when I want, how I want, with whom I want. Choice. So I've been doing exactly what you're saying. Why do I want it? What will that achieve for me? And what's beyond that? And those are the steps I'm trying to put out there.
So you've already performed that step, but quite often we would find that when we look for those reasons, we would find those reasons, not only the original desire we hold, but those reasons are also part of our desire. So we have to recognize them as separate desires. And then each of those reasons, we have to align ourselves to those reasons as well. Because if you want a particular thing, and you want that particular thing because there are 3 other things that you want in life, and you believe that you could get that particular thing if you get those, those 3 things if you get this one particular thing. But if you're not aligned to each of those 3 items, again you're back to square one. And that is based on your beliefs. So what do you believe? So if you have certain beliefs, a lot of those reasons you would find out that those are not because you truly want those things, but you have been made to believe that if you get that, this is what will happen. But what is the test that whether or not those are the things that you truly want? You visualize them, you think about them, and when you align with each desire separately, and then you would know, because you would feel good. You would feel good. Then you know that those reasons are valid, those desires, each of those individual desires, that were the reasons you want the original desire. So it all gels well together. So that's how you judge those desires. And wherever you find reasons that, or other parts of the desires which you can't feel good about, that means you're not aligned to those desires yet. So you would have to park them to the side until you get to a stage where you can start aligning yourself to those desires. Because more we do this, more things we manifest. Simple things like, very small things that, when you're walking around, you want people to smile at you. If it works, then it gives you more confidence and belief that you can make it work with bigger things in life. So, if some of those desires you're not currently aligned to, until you get more belief and more confidence, you park them aside and only focus on those desires to start with, which you can believe in. So that belief is important. You can change your belief over time, but it depends on what kind of upbringing you had, what kind of circumstances you had to encounter while growing up, and how strong that belief is. So if certain desires are in contradiction to those beliefs, strong beliefs, it might take quite a long time for you to align yourself to those desires and manifest those desires. But if you just desperately want those things right now, first of all, that would itself would add negativity to those desires, because that desperation. Secondly, having some of those hard desires, wanting those big things which you're not aligned to yet and which you hold very strong beliefs against, might actually put you off the whole process and derail the whole thing. So when we talk about that sheet with the balloons, which is trying to pull different parts of the sheet up, you want to go up, there are all these weights holding it down. So yes, one of the ways is that, okay, for now, I cannot carry this much weight. Let's put it aside. Let's say whether I can lift this bed sheet with the rest of the weights. So you add power to those balloons. And over time, we would learn to chip away on each of those weights and keep throwing off those pieces until there is nothing left. And we just have a clean bed sheet with only those light balloons just pulling it up. And we could just rise up in the sky. So, first stage is we have to understand the reasons for those desires, and each of those reasons is a desire by itself which we have to align to. If those desires don't feel good, we park them to the side for the time being and work on other areas until we could figure out, get enough belief and strength in our manifestations to come back to it. Second thing we have to realize is, quite often you would notice that people who initially start following law of attraction, they would realize that a lot of these small things are quite easy to manifest. Within days of trying to follow law of attraction, they are able to manifest simple things quite easily. But some of the bigger things, sometimes it takes a very, very long time because it always seems out of reach. And everyone wonders, why is it that happens? The reason is that the universe, if you think of our telescopes can only see that far. So we know that there are billions of galaxies in that distance, but the universe stretches far beyond that. There are countless galaxies. It's not just billions. And each galaxy has billions of stars and trillions of planets and other bodies which can sustain life. So when you look at the scale of this universe, there are countless souls having these countless desires, and those are being manifested. That universe, the God, the source energy, has enough power to manifest every single one of those desires, however big it is. That those desires, those thoughts have been changing the universe, creating planets and stars, and destroying them, moving these galaxies around. That's how powerful that universe is, that source energy is. But in our own lives, we sometimes are not able to manifest quite a few of those things. But if you look at the from universe point of view, in such a vast scale, our galaxy is just a tiny speck. Within that tiny speck, our sun and solar system is just a tiny speck. Within that solar system, our Earth is very small, tiny speck. And within that Earth, we are small, tiny specks. And a universe that can move planets around. Do you think that universe doesn't have enough power to move few light balls in a device and only get those numbers that you want in your lottery? So if you think about it, your desires are so small within the power of the universe that it doesn't matter to universe how big your desire is. It can manifest. But the problem is not universe's power. Problem is your own personal power. How powerful is your desire, and how many negative thoughts or beliefs are holding you back. So that takes time. Working on your mind, getting the alignment right. And the bigger the desire is, more areas it would affect, because lottery would affect every single area of your life. Money, relationships, material possessions. Which means all those areas those desires affect have to be aligned properly for that one single desire to manifest. And that can take time. So that's why we start Bhagavad Yoga practice with first aligning ourselves to our people, circumstances, and our own self, and then look at the desires. Because all the other teachers who teach law of attraction, they all start with desires. The secret. They just say you just want something, you visualize it, it happens. I tried, nothing happened. That's when I realized the hard way that you're looking at the picture the other way around. You have to first release as many negative thoughts or negative beliefs as possible before you can start looking at your desires. And that's why we have this process. So step 4, align yourself to those desires. Identify all areas where those desires are going to affect, and align with each of those reasons and each of those areas. And that's when you would have that true alignment. And as soon as that alignment happens, quite quickly after that, you could see results.
Okay, so if you're following that trend and of the desires, and then you come to a point that is, you find that actually that comes from a negative place, I'm not in alignment, should we not think on what that means to us, or would you say to push it aside and think on something more positive? Because I want to be true to myself. I feel that the things that I say to myself and my intentions should really be a truth for me.
Yes.
So it's all right to be with that negativity, to understand it, to allow it, so we can move away from it.
This again, we go back to the first principle when we started, that whenever you have those negative blocks, you never focus on those negative blocks. You look at the opposite end. What is it that you want instead? This is something that you don't want. What is it that you want instead? And then work on your mind. Start feeling better. Start finding reasons to feel better. Start doing things to feel better in that area, until you have aligned yourself to that particular aspect. And for you, there are lots of beliefs that, first of all, through our childhood, we have been told that money doesn't come easy, right? So that's one of the strongest beliefs. You have to work hard to get money. Another belief that we have to get rid of, align ourselves with. the opposite end of that belief, right? We have to release those kind of beliefs we have been taught. But those things have been taught so deeply, those things are so deeply ingrained in our minds that releasing some of those beliefs can be very, very hard work and could take a long time. Similarly, every single lottery ticket you buy, every single time, like you talk to people about lottery, people talk about odds, like 1 in like 100 million, you know. So when you know, and then you suddenly realize that, you know, there could be people buying the lottery ticket for many, many years, but it may not manifest. Now these are the beliefs. So how do you overcome those negative beliefs to align yourself that you feel that yes, you know, your odds are 100%.
Yeah, I try not to think about the odds. I think about why I want it.
No, but those beliefs are still deep inside you because you see that all the time. People talk about it. You have heard it so many times. Every time somebody says something to you, every time you hear something, every time you think about something, it changes your point of attraction. And it stays there whether or not you consciously think about it from that point on. So, if you have to change your point of attraction in a different way, some of those other points of attractions you have to dig deep, find those like negative points of attraction and release them, and then shift your point of attraction to the positive side. So it doesn't just help that knowing that these are the only thoughts I'm thinking today. So if I just work on these thoughts, it's okay. But there are deep-rooted beliefs. So you have to identify those beliefs. So this is the next step. You have to identify all of those deep-rooted beliefs and thoughts that you may not be thinking about right now, but because of society, because of whatever the upbringing, whatever rules, whatever things you have heard from people, they're deep inside you. You feel those things. So you have to find the opposite end of that spectrum and align yourself to that. So for smaller things, sometimes it doesn't matter, simply because you may not have that sort of deep-rooted belief, which is preventing that from happening. But big things like that, it's going to affect every single area of your life. And it has like so much of like, commonly known beliefs that we have been just taught to agree with. They would sit inside us until we unlearn those learnings and then find the other end of the learning.
So, can you give some examples? Are you thinking about like with money, like money doesn't grow on trees, that kind
Yeah,
of
I remember that being
belief?
said to me. One of the ones that I had inside me that I didn't realise until I was thinking about it was a belief of mine is the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor.
Right.
And that's from childhood, but it
Yeah.
took me a long time to think, oh gosh, that's something I believe. And I was brought up in poverty as well,
Right,
so there's
yeah.
lots of stuff. But that's not why. Like I said, it's not having money for money's sake, but I still want to be aware of what's
So it's how you release the negative things, like the rich stay rich and
rich,
poor
yeah.
stay poor.
And that's from childhood. I don't know even where that came from.
Yeah.
I know it's from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the other end would be that everyone can get everything and I can get whatever I
That's
want.
enough for
You know,
everyone.
and then you have to bring your focus and your thoughts process from there to that yes, everyone can get whatever they want and I can get also. So then you start focusing on all the people who got those things. Use that as inspiration, and then you know that you can get those things. I'll give you an example. Here, the difference between like rich and poor is not as much as evident as in, let's say, a country like India. Over there, I noticed, let's say, a simple job, a decent job, a good, respectable job of being a photographer. Right? Here, those people are like considered good, right? So I noticed that photographers who grew up in like poor communities or came up from poor families would have small shops and they would struggle to earn their living and they would charge very, very small amounts for their photographs that they took. Then photographers who came from well-to-do families, who grew up in prosperity, when they start their practice, they charge huge amounts of money for each photograph they take. Same job, quite often the quality of those poor photographers is much superior than the people who are charging big amounts of money. So the amount of work, the effort they put in, none of that matters. I've never seen that hard work or amount of work that is being put in yielding the right results. It's always thoughts, because my own life experience, if those hard work or smartness or intelligence, those kind of things would have mattered, I would be the richest person in the world as of now. I would be the richest person right now. But none of those things matter. It's just the thoughts. Your state of, the point of attraction you have inside you, your vibrations, your energy flow. That's all that matters. So, and that's the reason those people are able to do that, because they've grown up in that society where they believe that's what they're worth and that's what they should be charging. They charge that much and people pay them happily. On the other hand, these poor people, they try to align themselves, oh, would people pay or not pay, and then people come in and they basically, haggle over price. The low price that these people charge. So that's a typical example. What those beliefs, how those beliefs affect you. So you find those beliefs that are inside you. Dig deep, if those are big desires, figure out what areas affect you, what beliefs you have, and then try to align yourself to the positive end of that spectrum for those beliefs. That's the next step.
Okay.
And once you have done that, then you start looking at what, and one of the easiest ways it would be to find people who have achieved that. Let's say if you want lottery and if you want certain things in life or certain negative beliefs, money doesn't go on trees. Look for people who have made money, who became rich despite growing up in poverty. Read about them, talk about them, think about them, and believe that if they can do it, so can you. Let me give you a tip, for example. You know that every person who buys a lottery ticket, I'll give you an example of how you can work on these things, right? So you can apply it in different scenarios. Like for instance, every single person who buys lottery has the exact same odds, right? So you have exactly the same odds of winning as she has or I have. Is that correct? Right? So which means you also have the same, the people who won the lottery also had the exact same odds of winning that lottery as the people who did not win that lottery. And rest of the people. You also have the exact same odds of winning that lottery as the people who won the lottery in the past. You have exactly the same odds of winning that lottery as the other people who have won that lottery in the past. So if they can win, so can you, because your odds are the same as the odds of the winners of the past. So odds do not matter.
That's what I believe. Even as you're saying that, I was thinking, before, not now, but before I would think, even though I was doing the lottery, but I won't win. I've been poor all my life. But I'll do it anyway because I want to have some money. So even as you were saying it there, I was thinking, oh my gosh, underneath. That's what I now could feel that it didn't feel good in here, even though I was liking what you were saying to me.
So you see, every single desire that you have, every single belief you have, within a few right thoughts in the right sequence, you can change those beliefs instantly. It doesn't take time. But finding those right thoughts, like I've been practicing these things, right? So I can now look at any scenario or any belief and find statements that if you think about those statements in that sequence, that belief would change, or at least it will become weak. But it's not possible for everyone in the beginning. So this requires practice. And that's the reason I said some of those bigger things. And also you have to understand that if some of those things are not manifesting, if you're only focusing on big things and those things obviously would take time, because you would take time to release all those beliefs, then sometimes there is a risk that you might get disheartened. So you want to start going step by step. Keep building belief. Keep going for higher things. Going for higher things. And then if that particular one big desire that you have is because of multiple other reasons, then start manifesting those reasons without that desire by itself. But during that whole process, you want to recognize which are those things, the reasons that you want because of your beliefs, and which are the things that you truly want.
You mentioned choice just now, didn't you? What choices could you put into play now that you don't need money for? I don't know, I'm just trying to think what...
Yeah, absolutely. And this is really about my way of thinking about things.
Yeah.
I realise as I'm practicing this more and more, I've asked to become more observant about how I feel about things. So I've felt very much in the past that I don't have choice about things. I became ill, became disabled, I didn't have a choice, I couldn't go to work. There was lots of things that were happening that I felt powerless and I had no options or choices. And it's taking time, but I am gradually being aware of how that makes me feel. Because I wasn't even aware of how that was affecting me physically and emotionally. Now I'm becoming more aware with each time someone says or something happens, how that is affecting me. So I'm pleased for that, because I asked for that. And so now I'm feeling, okay, so it is really step by step for me. So what, like you said, what choice do I have? Well, I have a choice about how I feel about that. I can have a choice about, actually I'm going to write a letter to and what happens, I don't have whatever over that, but I'm going to put how I feel about it, and that makes me feel good. So that's my choice to do that.
Exactly. So in that process, you actually hit the nail on the head, because there are certain actions you realize that you must perform, right, in order to achieve certain goals. So, but you're not ever focused on the goal or the outcome. You want the outcome, you feel pleased about it, but you have no negative connotations about that goal. Even if it doesn't happen, you're at peace. That whatever happens, I'm at peace. I would want those things to be the way I want, but even if they don't turn out to be that way, I'm at peace, I'm happy with it. You know? And that action itself becomes an action in joy. That's when you get those results. So a lot of people, they get whatever is written in Bhagavad Gita wrong. They think that you're supposed to release all the desires. That's not true. You're only supposed to release the negative aspects of that desire, that desperation, that longing, like that let's say all the negative aspects of that desire, that I don't have it, I want it.
So releasing the outcome, have the desire, but release what happens.
Yes. So even if it turns out the other way, if you're at peace,
okay.
that's when you're in alignment. And you would see that whenever you perform an action, completely at peace with the outcome, that okay, if it goes good, bad, whatever happens, I'm okay with it. But I would like it to be good. You visualize it being good, but whatever happens is okay. You would see that outcome, the probability of success increases dramatically, straight away.
I've had a few of these things happen to me with exactly those, with those things. For example, a thing I went to yesterday, which caused me great anxiety and went so badly wrong for me before. I wanted to have cab fare to go there, because for me with ME it's very difficult for me to get to places. And I did exactly that. Okay, well I'm going to put in the forms late, they were, but I'm going to put in what I'm going to put in, and even if I can't get the money from there, I'll be able to get it from whatever, so I'm okay with this. And I've got a letter back yet, it's all been okayed, that's all good. And even yesterday, going to the place, very, very anxious, I listened to a meditation about finding inner peace and calm, and I heard myself saying, I am at peace with myself and others around the world. And I was repeating that. And it was a positive experience for me yesterday. I was weeping the day before here, talking about the last time I was in front of these people. And I had a positive experience.
It works in management as well, like even everyday life, every single aspect of your life, it works. So, to summarize today's session. What we'll do is after this we'll take 10 minutes break and then we'll do the meditation, try to raise our Kundalini, and because there are only 3 people today, so I'll be able to spend more time and make sure that you have that experience of being able to feel the flow of energy. To summarize, to align with your desires, let others' desires be. It's part of that big consciousness, big God's plan, So we don't have to worry about it, because even something as heinous and as evil as World War II, whatever happened there, can have lasting positive impact in the lives of far greater number of people, 10 times more people in the world. Then imagine what small acts, what we think are evil acts or bad acts, what purpose do they hold? We don't know that. We can't see everything. So let others create their own universes around them. We just want our own universe, which is colored by our own desires, which is pleasing to us. Sometimes those universes would overlap, so be it, great. We would have a joyous time together with those people. Sometimes they won't, but they won't even come into our experience. We won't even see those things. Because this world is a wonderful place. There are 7 billion people on this world. And if you look at all the negative aspects, there are very few, and they are reducing still. If you see how many people used to get killed, 10 years ago, or 50 years ago, or 100 or 1,000 years ago, for various reasons. And look at it now. World is becoming a better place day by day. So are we going to focus on 99% of those people or 98% of those people who are great, who are good, or are we going to focus on that 1% of stuff that we don't want? So let's just focus, know that everything is great, it's getting better, and every things that we see which we don't please, sometimes there is a reason for it which we may not see, we may not realize, but there is always a reason. It's all part of that big consciousness plan. First. Second stage, we have to find the reasons for those desires and align ourselves to each of those reasons also. And that's why the bigger the desire, more areas it impacts, longer it may take. But we have to be at peace with it. We have to understand that timing is not in our control. Only our focus and trying to align with it is in our control. As soon as we are aligned, soon after, those manifestations would occur. But we have to find all the way, keep finding more and more things which are holding us back, keep releasing them until we are fully aligned. That's when those things will happen. And bigger those desires are, stronger those beliefs are, longer it may take. But we have to do it. That's the work we have to do. So start with, easiest thing would be to either park some of the bigger things or things that have stronger negative connotations for you or stronger beliefs to the side for temporarily. Start working your belief up until you find the ways to align yourself to bigger things as well. Chip on it step by step so that you build confidence, you know that this is working, and then you at least start seeing some results. And then also understand whether or not those desires are your true desires or whether those are because people have told you, because of, again, your beliefs. That you figure out by the joy you feel. If you don't feel joy visualizing that, if you can't visualize it, if you don't feel joy, that means either that desire is not right for you, you're just wanting that because people have been saying, oh, if you want this, you should have this, If you become a movie star, then that's the best life, So you want to become a movie star, But then there may be other things you want, basically. You don't want to be that way, but because of this influence, you think you want that. So that would be the test, how it feels. So that is for today's session. Next week we will talk about manifesting those desires deliberately. So we would look at a few processes and a couple of different meditation techniques that we could use to start deliberately focusing on those things and start manifesting those things. And we would also see how do we even know that those things are coming to us or going away from us. How do we figure that out? Okay, so we'll just take a 10 minutes break and then we'll do our meditation. Thank you. Well, let's do that, yeah. Hello.
Bye.